All right, well, here I've got Bob Leader here with me. Bob is on the NFHS Baseball Rules Committee. They're meeting next month to discuss changes for the 2026 season, and thought we could bring Bob on, learn a little bit more about the role, and kind of talk about what's on his mind and what might be coming down the line. So, Bob, thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
So, Bob, maybe before we get started, maybe you could talk a little bit more about how you got involved with this committee. What's the process that led you there?
Well, I'd been the Virginia State Rules interpreter for about, say 25 years or so. And our associate director, Tom Dolan, was chair of the committee. And 4 years ago, he appointed me to that committee representing officials across the country. At Section 2 in the state of, in the United States, we have a person up in Maryland, and they vary from year to year, from state to state, but he appointed me as the officials representative on the committee, and it's been a pleasure to do that.
What is the makeup of the committee? Is it how many people, and what are their roles look like?
Most of the committee is made up of associate directors from states across the country. There's 11 people on the committee. There's a chairman, and then there's Elliot, who supervises all of it. There's an officials representative, there's a coaches representative, and then 9 other representatives across the country. And to get a proposal passed, you have to have a proposal pass in the yes format and win by 2 votes. Some of them in past years have lost 6-5. Some of them have gone 11-0. Some of them, you would never think it even come close to passing, and it does, but it's been fun.
Well, okay. And when you look at that makeup, does Elliot vote from the NFHS office, or is he kind of just supervising?
He does not vote. He does not vote. No.
Yeah. And there's really no one from the NFHS office dictating this. Is that kind of correct?
Dictating.
But they don't necessarily drive the conversation or drive what gets accepted.
No, there is one person that is in the room as we're voting, and he is considered to be a historian. And it seems like every year he comes, and he does this on his own accord, and Elliot invites him. Great guy. And he gives some of the history of how things were voted in past years, a long time ago or something like that. And there's times where I wish that wouldn't happen before the vote. And then there's times where I'm glad it does happen.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people knew that. And I think it's worth pointing out that, a lot of people just think, oh, the NFHS office. Like, well, it's not as much the NFHS office as people necessarily think. There's a pretty wide representation of people across the country, which, makes it difficult to get some of these rules changes across, because I know baseball is very different from level to level. I mean, I'd imagine you see that as kind of representing officials from all over the country.
Yeah. And I think a perspective of an official isn't so much a perspective of an associate director sitting in a state office. So that can be frustrating.
Yeah, especially when we're the ones that have to take the brunt of the conversation and.
Or you work a college game for 2 hours, 9-inning game, and you come back and work a 7 o'clock game. Don't get off the field till 10:30 for a 7-inning high school game. So, they don't know that.
Yeah, they don't necessarily deal with that as much. And when you're on the field, it's tough. But all right, well that's good for people to kind of know how what your role is representing the officials and kind of how that all comes together. So going into this next committee meeting, what do you kind of see as what are your priorities, or what do you think are the priorities that a lot of the conversation is going to focus on?
Well, this year had, I think it's like 15 pages of change proposals, 37 proposals. Some of them are tied into some other ones, which makes it really easy. If this passes, then these 5 will pass. But I think player-to-player conferences is going to be a big one. Again, because of pace of play, double first base has come up for the first time in a long time. trying to alleviate a lot of the issues with running lane interference. I found that malicious contact always comes up. This year it come up because it's never been defined in the rule book, ever. And we're trying to wordsmith it to make it as simple as we possibly can, and sometimes that gets hard. The challenge we have, though, is there's a questionnaire that gets sent out from NFHS to the whole country. And that is compiled very nicely for us, dealing with each topic that we talk about. And it asks the coaches and asks officials how they think this is a problem across the United States. Rarely, never, always, that kind of thing. And it's really funny. We get those percentages of how many think it's a problem. And sometimes that matters a lot, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's an interesting procedure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd be curious too to see like what the level, if the level varies from like state to state, just based off of the level of baseball there.
Well, about 2 years ago, I came into the office looking on my flight out, looking at this questionnaire and the synopsis of it. And I really found that there were only 7 out of 50 states really contributing to this questionnaire. That really threw me because we're not getting the input from officials and coaches across the country. So in reality, 7 states were giving all the information for us to determine our vote.
Wow. Yeah.
So we've had an improvement on that, and that has improved. But boy, I can't tell you, if officials and associations get that questionnaire, take 10 minutes to do it.
Yeah. And this year I went through it and actually recorded myself going through it and talked through the different options in it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And I'm glad that it sounds and kind of looks like a lot of what's going to be considered this year had at least some relationship to that, which I'm sure will be helpful when y'all are voting and kind of going through it. Maybe let's go through a couple of them real quick. I know delayed dead ball box, that came from, I think you're on it as well as some people from Georgia.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
Well, a buddy of mine is on the committee from Georgia, and we really think that it deprives the offense from having a chance to score more runs. You take that opportunity away from them when you kill the ball just automatically. Unfortunately, some people think it's easier to call. Some people think that if you called a balk, people are going to stop automatically anyway. Trust me, I think that could happen if it does come about for the first couple of years. But I think it's an advantage to the offense to allow that batter the chance to and that offensive team to make a difference.
Yeah, I had it in a game this year, and we used it as an experimental rule in Georgia this year.
Yep.
And I had a delayed dead ball balk where the runner from second ended up scoring, and the batter runner ended up on second.
Yep. If you would have killed it, everybody got up one base, could have been the deciding factor of the game. And I think that information from Georgia being a test, and there are other test states across the country doing different things, that information is going to be key as to, and I want to know that information, how many games were affected by that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that when you get the final results.
Yeah.
And I know when I did a poll of Umpire Classroom subscribers, about 75% of umpires were for it, which was surprising for me. I actually thought it would be higher than that.
Yeah.
But I think there's some concern, especially for officials that haven't gone to a pro school before or haven't worked, high-level college ball. They might not be familiar with that rule, and so it can be a little intimidating.
Yep.
But overall, it's it's pretty easy once you figure it out.
Yeah, and I was really flabbergasted. This is one where I wish the historian would not have been talking about it before, because it was brought up 11 years ago, supposedly, and it was voted down. And the key reason was it was too hard to enforce. And that's scary.
wild.
I said, well, we have training in every association every year. I don't know, but
Well, now there's a great YouTube channel out there that can probably help that. Well, it's funny because that kind of leads to the discussion of the next proposal, which is the double first base.
Yep.
And, there's a rule change that you read the NCAA one, it's a lot added to the rule. So you can't not do delayed dead balls because they're hard when that one's
that
very
will be a scary
complicated.
one. And even the most seasoned officials, like I said before, are having a hard time with this one in the B and C position in a 2-man crew. And most high school games, until you get the playoffs, are 2-man. And then you get the official that says, we don't want to be like softball. We don't want to, it's just.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. I'll be anxious to hear what people are saying. I've already got from Facebook NFHS site, no, not softball, this, that, and the other thing. So,
well, yeah, I'm personally pro it, and it kind of leads to, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit, but there was an interesting rules interpretation sent out last year from the office that said the runner. Basically, the case play was if the runner's in outside of the runner's lane anytime during the last half distance on a throw to first, it's an immediate dead ball as soon as it's thrown, regardless of whether or not it interfered.
Yeah.
Which felt contradictory to the rule as written. We won't get too much into that, but I did think, that works if you have a double first base. Like then I think the rule works very well. Then you have to run in foul territory because there's a bag.
That's where your bag is.
Foul territory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'd rather see the rule change if it came about, because the NCAA one is very long, and it started from the SEC kind of led the charge on that, surprisingly in my opinion, but they led the charge on that. But their games are mostly worked in crew of 3, crew of 4, which is a lot easier for, there's one umpire always standing at first base.
Yeah.
And the plate umpire doesn't have to rotate most of the time, at least any time that this would be relevant. So they have a good view of it as well. Crew of 2, that's harder, and it's a long rule in the NCAA. Have you looked at the NCAA rule before? Is that something the committee's looked at?
I really haven't looked at that yet. I'm trying just to find out information of what people are thinking here. I'm talking to other officials that are working D1, D2, D3 that possibly have some of that stuff. But so far, what I've heard from those seasoned officials, it's harder than what you think. And And sometimes they're having worse collisions at first base than before.
Interesting. Yeah, that's and I could definitely see where it gets complicated when you only get credit for touching one base, not the other at certain points. And what's funny is it's a wide deviation from the NFHS suggested rule for the double first base that had been in there for a long time.
It has.
Did you know a lot of states using that, or a lot of officials using it?
I do not know a lot of states that are using it. I've always seen it, double first base is allowed, and I don't know that I've ever been anywhere that I've had it.
And it's interesting because that one says you can touch either bag at any time.
Yep.
And I think I like that one better because it's just easier to enforce. And what I would do is say that, but then just say that last half distance, 2 first on a ball being fielded, 2 first, you have to run in the runner's lane. Being out of it at any point would be the out.
Yeah. I don't see it very often, but I've been out. I've been out this week to 2 games and didn't have a runner's lane even down on the field. That is scary. That is scary.
Yeah. That's Do you see, what's funny is like in Georgia, if we report that, the umpires are supposed to report that if they see it. And when we report it, the school gets a warning, potentially a fine. Do you see a lot of things like that in other states?
I haven't seen that yet. I have over my career. We had a high school team that had an illegal pitcher's mound. It looked like a pimple out there. And I did report that, and they came out and investigated it and had them redo that. But as far as lines, most of the time, schools are very good about putting those lines down. But in playoffs, if I'm at a field and there's nothing like that, or even coaches' boxes down on the field, I'm going to ask for them to put it down before we start the ball game.
Yeah. I mean, the runner's lane is like inexcusable. You need that lane because it's important to know when that starts.
Yep.
Especially if we put in either of these rules changes. I'd like to see, I've kind of given my piece on it, so I won't reiterate on that. It'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what the committee comes back with on that. And, it's
a lot of there's like 4 or 5 all tied into this first base, double first base. And, like I said, there's not a lot talking about the defensive first play at first base on a tag back throw, which base can that player use? And I think that all has to be included in this if you're gonna do that, or else say the defense can use either base at any time.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Now a couple other changes that I believe were on there: communication devices, player to player. What have you seen with that?
It took us quite a while to get one-way communication from the dugout to the catcher. There's a concept that is talked a good bit in the committee of the have and the have-nots being able to afford all this stuff. And they don't want to give an advantage to the haves versus the have-nots. And I don't disagree with that. I'm not too sure that we need to have devices that all the defensive players can hear what's going to happen, or, hey, this guy hits the right field, shift over, let's keep the good old fashioned coach, give him a little room,
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's an interesting point too, that I hadn't thought of about, like, giving that device to the outfielder. I can see a big advantage, and I've noticed it from the college games I've worked. There's an advantage when the dugout signal goes to the catcher and the pitcher at the same time.
Yep.
Just because then it doesn't help as much if the catcher gets the signal and then has to signal
exactly
with the runner on base.
Yep.
But just going pitcher and catcher, I think, would make a big time difference.
And it helps with strategy and everything. I could see this happening, but it could be, if it does happen, it's not going to come in place for another 2 years. Anything dealing with equipment, and including the double first base, is effective in 2027. So they make a point of it's a good 2 years before it gets put into play.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's big base manufacturers pushing for the double first base. Everybody got to buy a new base.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, that comes into play. We can't do it for 2 years because we have to have these things all manufactured.
That'll be an interesting one. I'm hopeful it'll come, but we'll see. And then, all right, so we talked about player to player, rules interpretations. Do y'all vote on those as well? Do those go along with it, or do you kind of give it over to the NFHS to kind of write that out?
Yeah, they write that out after everything is said and done. As a matter of fact, we as a committee, the last half a day, the rule changes that we make were separated in groups to come up with several casebook plays for that particular rule. And then as we go through the end of it, we give topics to Elliot for the points of emphasis. And he writes those himself every year. And typically they're 4 or 5. I hope we don't have 37 rule changes this year like is listed. But like I said, I'd be surprised if we don't have a good many this year.
Yeah. Well, the NCAA does theirs every other year, and they had quite a bit.
Yeah.
And pitch clock. I know. I think there was something like at the 10-second mark for high school. They want the batter ready and the
in the batter's box.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting. It's been there forever. I mean, if I go out and look at a game and I think a guy's taking a little longer, I might, give him the old basketball, move and just count it out and see what it is. And some of them are 22, 23. And, if I was behind the dish, I'd talk to my catcher, say, hey, he needs to speed up a little bit. But, there's 7 or 8 things that batter can step out of the box for. And several of them include killing the ball and then putting the ball back in play. So how are you getting to 10? I mean, unless you're wearing a stopwatch or some kind of buzzer like we do in NC2A, I don't want to have to figure. I run the 30-second clock for some college basketball teams in the Richmond area. And my life that night lives at 30-second intervals. And I can't enjoy the game just doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a job.
It is a job.
And it's tough. I mean, at the NCAA level, a lot of times it's being kept on the field, and it's hard to do.
Yeah. And I really would be a proponent of the Federation looking at extending the time duration between innings and then have a strike or a ball called on that batter or pitcher if they don't get it done quickly. A minute is it just can't get done.
That's people talk about, well, it's been in the rule book, and it's like, yeah, it's been in the rule book. It was in the MLB rule book for a long time too before they put a physical clock out.
Yeah.
And if it's unrealistic as it's written in the rule book, then people aren't going to partially enforce some that they want versus the one that's unrealistic, and it just becomes a mess. I mean, I like the direction of, like, you need to have that when the batter needs to be set. It'll be interesting to see, like, if we see more. Do you think it's up to the states whether or not they want to use an on-field timer, or is it
I think
NFHS thing?
Yeah, I would think they don't want to impose that cost factor onto the schools. I would really think that to be the case. But I to my understanding, there some private schools use a 30-second shot clock for basketball. And that's in the gym. And is there a football clock on the field for high school in certain states? I'm sure there is.
Yeah. GHSA, our basketball, all our schools had to have shot clocks last year, 2 years ago. In football, not all of them have it, but the vast majority have a play clock on the field.
Yeah, I would hope that we don't get to that point. I would hope that if we change how many player-to-player conferences are allowed in a game, I'm all in favor of reducing offensive timeouts. I've been trying that for 2 or 3 years, and every year it gets voted down for some reason. I mean, when you think about the game of baseball, every half inning you have a timeout that they can talk. Every inning you have 7 offensive timeouts, and you have 3 defensive timeouts for each team, and unlimited player-to-player conferences. Realistically, you could get out of there having 22 or 23 timeouts in a 7-inning game. What sport does that?
Yeah, and I did see that's going to be on the committee's list, is talking about limiting the player-to-player ones.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of officials are pro that.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
They are, and I think this is where not having a lot of officials on the committee kind of adds a little problem with that, because these associate directors are used to seeing games at state playoffs. Well, they're 2 1/4,
it's a lot better
baseball. And I think they just need to take some consideration into that, because the 3 hour, 13 minutes, 3 hour and a half with 13 or 14 player conferences you're losing a lot of good officials.
Yeah. You lose them to travel ball. The game takes longer, and I mean, it made a huge difference in MLB when they put their play clock, their clocks in, and I think it's improved the experience a lot. All their surveys said it did.
Yeah.
There's a need to do it, and yeah, that's a funny point you bring up, and a good one. Like, the officials work every game. The administrators don't see every game.
Yeah. You know, believe it or not, and it's been in the questionnaire every year, you know, about the length of games and stuff. And we get high 70s, low 80s of officials say this is a problem always. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't.
Well, and it's tough, right? Like if I'm working travel ball during the same time of year, you know, like 14Us or whatever, they might play 2 games in the night, each with a 2-hour time limit. And that pays more than one high school game that might be just the same amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, you know, unfortunately, you got to look at how much time you're spending out there and the quality of baseball. I don't think a time limit on the varsity level will ever come into play. I really don't. And some people, you know, we had a situation where a school district put a different mercy rule in than what we have in federation and state. Nothing's been adopted. I don't know where they got it, but they've been playing with it for playoffs, and you know, we have to deal with that. So,
yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I had not heard of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a time. I don't think a time limit would work for varsity. I could see where it would happen in sub varsity. I cannot confirm or deny whether or not I've seen JV games implement it, especially in doubleheaders. Can't confirm or deny that, but it would be I think a good benefit to the game.
Yeah.
And just it's good to know that like pace of play at least is something that is on the committee's, you know,
it is
top of mind.
It is always on the committee's mind, whether they are open to it or not. We'll see. You know, the player-to-player conferences, we have 2 choices out there this year. One is to go to 6 conferences, 3 with the coach, limit the player-to-player for 3. And then the other one would be to allow one player-to-player conference each inning. That one, we have to come up with something. But what scares me about that is you got 1 or 2 good teams that they themselves limit, and the coach is good, and they limit their player-to-player conferences. If you tell them now that you got 1 per inning, they're going to use it.
They'll use more, yeah.
So,
yeah, and you know, I have conflicting feelings on that one. My only concern is that I think all of us have told a catcher at some point, go tell your pitcher he needs to come set.
Yeah.
Like you kind of would lose that ability. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, maybe he should just know to come set, and then we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. Pitching's another whole animal for me. I'm out seeing, you know, we took the hybrid out many years ago, but nothing is on this year about the pitching with the foot. But I'll tell you, it is still a nightmare out there. You see guys that their foot is maybe 1 degree from parallel, and it looks like they're in the set all day long, but they say they're in the windup. In my mind, it really needs to have them with runners on base. They need to declare what they're in.
Interesting.
That to me is just, I'm not dealing with that this year.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's not being dealt with this year. It's a tough one. I personally kind of I like how it is currently. Yeah. I tell them, I teach umpires, just watch their heel. If they pick up their heel, they were in the windup.
Yep.
If they don't pick up their heel, they were in the set.
Yep. And that can suffice. And the seasoned umpire will do that. And leave it alone. But the ones where they get on base, and when they get a runner on base, they do distinctly go, you know, parallel to the pitcher's plate and stuff. And I'm fine with that. I just don't want them deceiving somebody in the windup and then get caught.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, one that we tried, that malicious contact thing, we've kind of wordsmithed it a little bit, and I'll bounce it off of you. And hopefully as the people listen here will, you know, give me input. I got 2 weeks before I go, and that's what I'm looking for, is input to what's happening here.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I did see the wording for this one, which I think was, do you mind if I read it out?
Well, I have a new one that we're hoping that takes the place of that one.
All right, go ahead.
We're saying malicious contact is judged as the result of intentional and or excessive force with intent to injure a player. Short and sweet. Doesn't say
Short and
it's
sweet.
around any base. It can happen anywhere.
Yeah, the one I saw included the being around the base,
Yeah.
which doesn't. You're right. That doesn't really apply.
No.
I mean, if I go punch somebody between first and second, that was pretty malicious.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that it was.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that this wordsmith is acceptable. One of the challenges that we have, what you have on paper in front of me for my proposals is supposedly what goes out to every committee member. And there's something seems to be stuck on that if you want to improve it as you meet as a rules committee, sometimes that's not, oh, we got to push it to next year. And that doesn't make any sense to me.
Let's just do it while we're here. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. The only thing I might add is possibly intent to dislodge the ball. Because like, I might not mean to hurt the kid, but I do mean to hit him hard enough to get that ball out. So that's the only thing, because that's how I've personally defined it to myself, and that I got from one of the people I look up to at GHSA about did they intend to injure or did they intend to dislodge the ball? Was it contact meant to dislodge? Because if they're trying to dislodge it, it's got to be hard contact.
Yeah. And then you could say a train wreck happens and the ball comes out too. So, good point. I will take that under advisement and tell them that you told me.
Yeah, tell them the pale white guy on the internet said this is what we should do. So we talked about malicious contact. One other one, I know coaches coming out onto the field.
Yeah.
What have you seen with that? I think other states already have something kind of in place. What are your thoughts with that? And
Virginia tested it last year just for the state, and they claim that they had less ejections. I like that if that's what happens, gives everybody a minute. But I don't know about you, but whenever I've been trained, I've been always told, let that coach come to me. I don't want to go to him and talk to him about anything. In this case, now you are. But it kind of settles them down a little bit. And it comes in line with other sports. There's no sport that a coach is allowed onto the field to question a call, onto the court, onto the football field, anywhere like that. So I think,
man, that is a great point.
I think it comes in line with every sport.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's not in any other sport. And you're right. You and I were both trained on let them come to you. You don't go to them, let them come to you. Of course, the problem there that I know this change potentially helps is that then the official can walk away.
Yeah.
And the guy can't, if he follows you, he knows he's getting ejected because he violated that policy. That's a good part of it.
Well, I think this one also is going to need some training from the officials because the seasoned official will, give him a hand up and say, hey, give me a chance. Give me a chance. I'm going to give you a chance here. I'll talk to you, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting because first of all, if they pursue you more coming out, you got to give them some kind of warning and restrict them. Yeah. And if they still don't want to oblige by you, then you got to eject them. So, and you hate to do that for something stupid like that, but as well as I do, the chances of him coming on the field to you, going nose to nose, he's taking a shower.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting one. I'm curious to see how it works. Overall, I think it'd be a good change to go because I've heard good changes from other places.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of influence from other sports in the rules changes?
It'd be surprising how many of the rationale on the 37 rule changes It comes in correlate, like the uniforms, the one they have for the uniforms this year, having the school name, mascot, name on the back, both shirts and pants, one or the other. It says comes in line with other sports in the federation.
That's an interesting one, and I saw that one too. I'll for everyone watching, it's a change that if you're as an official, it will mean nothing to you. You're not going to enforce it on the field. There's nothing to worry about. But the idea was that they wanted to standardize what you can put on a uniform wear for across all sports, which I understand why they want to do that and why it'll end up in the rule book.
I'm not.
Don't worry about that as an official.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That might even be a 2027. Yeah, it is effective January 1, 2027. So that there you go. The manufacturer is going to make some money on that one too. So somebody is.
Okay. And then one other one was talking about restrictions of coaches and players.
Yeah.
And play. I saw that on there. And it's funny, you and I have talked about that before. Not on this call. I know we both definitely see that there's some weird wording in there.
Yeah.
And I think there was another proposal to give officials potentially some option between warn and eject, just because the concern with ejection is that it usually comes with a state mandated you're sitting out X number of games.
Yep.
What are your thoughts kind of on that you're willing to share?
I'm not sure that anything is going to come about of it because I've been around, this is my 50th year around high school baseball, and we've never come up with something a lesser than ejection. I think we'd all like to come up with something, but I think that, because the true baseball coach will say, if I'm watching somebody create a mess on the field, you want him ejected because you know that guy's going to sit out. And if it's a horse on the mound at this late time of the season here, and we're just starting our playoffs next week, if he gets ejected, he's out 4 games. That's the whole state playoff. And that can really damage the kid and the team.
Yeah.
And I would like to see something come about from it. But,
it's hard to know.
I know there's some levels of baseball that have different levels of obstruction or interference, A or B. And, I don't know all the intricacies of it, but could there be an A ejection? Could there be a B ejection?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Do you, as the rule's currently written, do you see it as possible to restrict a player as written for a sportsmanship violation versus eject? If you say no, that's what I usually think.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I would like to see that happen. There's a difference with me hearing something out at second base than a kid coming across home plate and letting something out of their mouth and the whole stands know it. And my gut feeling is that it has to be a seasoned official that says to the coach, either you handle that and sit him on the bench for the rest of the game, or I'm bound to do it. And I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a tough policy to have, because I did it in a playoff game this year. I told the coach, and he only took him out for half an inning, but I said, he's got to come off the bases. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
And
a lot of the coaches will say, hey, you restricted him to the bench. He was in the game. You literally have ejected him without using the words. And that is unfair to the 3 or 4 teams that are going to play them coming up. Because you literally have ejected him from being in the game. So if you take him and sit him on the bench without me being involved with it at all, it's to your advantage. It is to your advantage.
Man, yeah, and it's such a tough rule. I don't know how you would come up with that in between penalty. It's just tough.
Yeah.
And
there's an interesting one that I have in this year also. It was about fainting a pitch to home plate. And it happened in a playoff game last year in a windup with nobody on base. The book doesn't mention at all in the windup that you can't feint to home plate. And with runners on, it does. And I have a kid in a windup with nobody on and comes up. It's almost like a double rotation. First time through, he feints to home. Second time through, he throws the ball. Everybody that I talk to wants this to be a balk or an illegal pitch. There's no interruption of movement.
Interesting.
Is there an alteration? That's what everybody keeps coming back to. There's an alteration. But Patrick, if you're throwing overhand for 3 innings and the 4th inning you come sidearm on 3 separate pitches, are you altered?
Yeah.
You did. It's not an illegal pitch if you come sidearm.
Oh yeah, and it's like people saying like you can't deceive. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you can deceive. There's part of this game is deceiving. You don't tell them what pitch you're about to throw.
No. So I'm interested. I did get an interpretation that it is an alteration. I disagree with that 100% because you don't have a norm to come back to. There is no norm. So
Interesting.
we'll see.
All right. Well, Well, it sounds like so. It's in a couple weeks that y'all will meet together.
I think it's
where do y'all meet?
June 8th, 9th, and 10th. So
Okay.
got a couple
You
weeks,
go-
so I'd love to hear from people.
How can people get in contact with you? Where should they look to do that?
I have a email address, and I can give it to you, Patrick, if you want to list it down on phone. It's bleader5@icloud.com. I don't want 17,000 emails, but I'm sure I'll get a couple, and I'd love to hear back. I really feel that I need to hear from people about these changes, especially the key ones. So I mean, that's my job to hear from other officials. I'm only one vote. I'm pretty vocal when I get in that meeting. You get 11 headstrong people in that meeting, and it gets to be a unique day.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well, I'll share that with people to reach out. Are there any? What's the biggest 2 or 3 changes that you think are most important to?
It sounds like
coming
this
season?
double first base. I think conferences are going to be a key. I think I read somewhere there's one obscure one in here about going off the base vertically. And
Oh, I
to
remember
me,
hearing about that.
to me, that one seems like they're trying to take care of the snake in the grass play.
That's what I thought too. The skunk in the outfield. Or whatever.
To me, I think I could word it a lot easier by saying the players on base need to stay in the confines of the infield. If it's dirt, I'm going to determine where the confines of the infield are. If it's grass, dirt, you know where they're at. That doesn't allow that player to go out into right field. And then, you only start their base path from when a play is played on them. And that you don't see that very often, but in my mind, that's what this play was about, this proposal was about.
Interesting. It's funny because it's a very specific proposal to a very specific play that.
And my first time on the committee, they said, we don't make rules up for one play. I'm like, what's this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be
We don't.
interesting.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, Bob, thank you for coming on and for what you do for us umpires, and what you've given to the game. You said 50 years of high school umpiring. You've seen a lot. Thanks for bringing that experience to us. I'll tell people to reach out to you, and we'll stay in touch. You'll have to let me know how it goes.
All right. You're quite welcome. I'd love to hear, give you a buzz. It's not going to happen automatically because they take it to the executive committee and everything else. So it's about a 2-month process before we really find out things, but be glad to come back and share with you some things that went on and what the rationale was.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Bob,
right.
and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks.